So welcome to the Spot of Time podcast, where we explore experiences that people go through and how it changes their life, and most importantly, how they navigate through those challenges. Jeff Brown, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. So Jeff, could you sort of tell us about what life was like for you and your family, and how were you leading your life, some of the things that brought you joy and fulfillment during that time?
Okay, I was born in Australia in 1957. My dad was in the Royal Air Force. He was posted out there, and obviously my mum was there at the time. I was one of a triplet. Obviously, one of the triplets didn't survive, so I was a twin. And we left Australia when I was about 2 years old. And being in a forces family, we travelled around the UK and around the world quite a lot until my dad left the Royal Air Force in the late 60s. And then I joined up. At 16 and a half, I joined the Royal Air Force, where I stayed there until I was 30, and then had a number of careers in that time. I met my wife in the Royal Air Force. We were married, and we both left the Air Force. I worked for a brewery for some time, Badger Brewery down in Dorset, but I'd always been doing hospital radio. In fact, I'm into my 41st year at Radio Hillingdon, and always had this passionate interest in radio. My daughter was born in 1996.
Okay.
Her name was Keira, and at the time we were living in Teddington. At that time, I'd moved from the brewery because I'd had an interest in radio. I'd been working on commercial radio in Reading on 210 FM and 1431 Classic Gold, and I'm still doing hospital radio. But I got the chance to become a studio manager at the BBC, in the BBC World Service, I hasten to add. So most of my work was done in Arabic and Swahili and French and Portuguese and what have you. And we lived a happy life. We did lots together. My daughter had a great sense of humour. My wife, not so much, but she was married to me, so she had to put up with that. Yeah, and then that was when things changed in 2006. I'd flown out to Melbourne to cover the Commonwealth Games for the World Service. And I met Anne and my daughter Keira in Hong Kong, and Keira was a bit unwell, a bit of a cough and everything. But that was the start, really, of the change in my life as such, because a few months later, she was diagnosed with Ewing Sarcoma in her chest. It's an unusual cancer, sarcoma, because it's not leukemia. It's not one of the many that are easily found. And she was sort of popped off with, it's just growing and it's just a cough and everything. But eventually my wife insisted that Keira have an x-ray, and that was when it was discovered that the cancer was in her chest around by her heart and everything. So
that was obviously a very shocking diagnosis for her and the whole family. Can you share what it was like for you as a unit when she was first diagnosed, and how your relationship with her evolved throughout that illness that she had?
Yeah, we were a very strong unit, all three of us. Keira was a fighter. She only grumbled. I know she grumbled about it once, because obviously she was going through lots of chemo and then radiotherapy. But we came together as a unit. We don't have a lot of relatives. My parents had died some time ago. Anne's parents lived up in Derbyshire, so they weren't always around. As a unit, we were very close, very secure, and very positive as well. And we're surrounded by lots of positive friends. Keira was at the school just over the road from where we live. And she had friends there. She was losing her hair, but everybody rallied around her. You know, it was a great environment. Everything was positive up until, unfortunately, 2 weeks before she died. We were told it had moved to her brain and it was a terminal prognosis, and that was it. And then things just changed completely.
That must have been the most traumatic time in your life. I mean, I can't imagine what that must have felt like.
Yeah.
How did you process that at the time?
Well, I'd spent a lot of time thinking about my parents, because they lived alone in Kent. And I often wondered, they're supposed to die before I do, and my grandparents are supposed to die before my parents do. There is this natural chain of survival. So I expected one of my either my mum or dad to die first. My mum died first, and we looked after my dad and everything, and that was fine. But when you lose a son or a daughter, in my case, the daughter, everything gets turned on its head. There's lots of ways that you can look at dealing with this. As I said, we were closely supported by lots of friends and what have you. Of course, I was depressed. I went through a lot of depression, and so did Anne, my wife, and we dealt with it in completely different ways. My way of dealing with it was to talk about Keira. My employer at the time, BBC World Service, paid for me to go and see a counsellor. I had about 5 or 6 sessions with a counsellor. I don't know whether it worked, but I was talking, and my own way of dealing with it was it wasn't self-denial. It was talking about Keira and acknowledging the fact that she was here and she's gone. And I think it's like a lie, isn't it? It's if you tell a lie often and often enough, you start to believe it. And although it wasn't a lie, it was a statement. I felt that was getting to me more than any other help that I could get to.
During that process, and also when you're experiencing that awful loss, as you kind of touched upon, you could talk about it with your wife. Did she internalize it?
Yeah, to some extent. In the house, we even to this day, I wonder, should be 27 now, 28. A lot of friends are married with children and what have you. Keira's frozen in time, but we still, the room next door to my studio is still called Keira's room. It doesn't resemble anything like it did when she was here. And we often say, oh, Keira would have loved this, or maybe not, because things change. But we still talk about her. It's not a problem. So it's, I did find, my other half didn't talk about her a lot. She kept it to herself. If we were in a group and somebody said, do you have children? Before I could even draw breath, she'd say no. Right. And it took a long time for her. And I remember we were in Spain at a big group, a meal with lots of strangers. And somebody said, do you have children? And she, at that time, said, yes, we had a daughter. And that was when I think she mentally come to terms with it. But it takes longer for some people. Some people never get over it. I can't say I'm over it, but I can say I'm used to it, I suppose.
It's a very important point that you make there, because ultimately when you lose someone close to you, you manage it. I think you manage that circumstance, that happening in your life. It's not something that you get over. And I think they say about time heals, but yeah, I wouldn't say that's the right way to phrase it. If anything, it's kind of time manages it.
It is. I mean, time is just like an ointment that you just rub on to that, and it sort of soothes it as such, but it never goes away. But we look back on Keira's life with joy. Every year on her birthday, her school friends, now, as I say, 27, 28, call us and say, right, we're having dinner at this such and such a place in memory of Keira and everything.
That's incredible.
So that's all good. And the mums and dads, we're still very close friends with Keira's school friends, mums and dads. We were out with some of them last night, actually, at a comedy night. So, it's a very close-knit family. And that's one of the main things. I don't have a big family, which is fine when it's Christmas because it's pretty cheap. But it's, there's a plus side to everything. But it's, I think it's the friends that rally around you.
It's very true that in the circumstances like that, in times of that crisis, you find out who your friends, who the people who actually care about you are. I think that's a real test, isn't it?
It is. In the early days, there were people who would cross the road rather than talk to us. But people we knew from school and everything. And I didn't worry about it. I think Anne did somewhat, but I really couldn't care less, because if that's what they wanted to do, that's what they wanted to do. And I think some people can't cope with it. And, you know, lots of people would say, oh, I don't know how you can deal with it. But I personally, I found the only person who could make a difference to my life was me, and the grey matter in between my ears, and how I dealt with things.
Very true, because only you know yourself, and no one can get inside your head. So even though, as you said, you openly spoke about it, you shared what happened to Keira, and you were having counselling, it's what I call that toolkit. You have to kind of dig deep.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone, but it's something that I really am intrigued by and interested in terms of what tools did you draw upon in order to come to terms, but actually navigate and deal with the situation that you found yourself in?
I think self-survival is one of those is one of those tools. Do you want to go through your life being mega depressed all the time? Because it spreads on people. You know, if you walk into a room and with a thundercloud over your head, that sort of goes across everybody else. I am known to be a bit of a funny guy on the side. I can make people laugh, and I don't want to be a miserable so-and-so, the one in the corner and I understand that there are some people like that, but and Keira wouldn't have wanted that. You know, she would have wanted us to grieve for a while, but then get on with our lives. She was such a selfless person, and we do that to honor her. What I've known one couple who have split up over losing not their only child, just one of their daughters, and they split up. He never went back to work. He didn't become an alcoholic or anything, but he just couldn't get over it. Yeah, he had another daughter who was there, who could have helped him, could have worked with him, but we're all different. And I can't say to somebody, this is how you deal with it. I can give you my experience, which I've mentioned here, of how I deal with it.
You mentioned positive mental attitude, and you have a very positive aura about you. So when you're in the depths of, as you say, or bouts of depression, what mechanism, what were you doing to try to kind of maybe bit by bit haul yourself out of that, of how you were feeling? I
won't say I was a manic depressive before Keira came along, but I did go through ruts. I had peaks and troughs. I'll be perfectly honest, my wife confided in me once. She thought that I would end my own life at some stage because I used to get really depressed about things. I think having lost Keira, it's changed my life completely. We live for the moment. I remember when Anne's parents died, they left a lot of cash in their house. And they were saving for a rainy day. And if a rainy day came along and slapped them around the face and said, hello, I'm a rainy day, they wouldn't have recognized it. So Anne and I, we live for the moment. We're not living beyond our means or anything, but we are going out and doing things and enjoying life. Because as far as I'm aware, I've yet to be proved wrong or right. You only get one chance of being here. So go out and do things that you want to do. That has changed. A lot of that has changed. My whole attitude to death has changed. I'll be perfectly honest. When people talk to me about other people dying, their parents and what have you, oh yeah, I'm sorry for them, but it was in the right order.
Yes.
And Anne and I often joke about going off to Switzerland. She's I've told her that if we do, I want to overdose on Toblerone.
That's where your humour comes into play.
No, absolutely. We laugh. Some people think we're quite dark about it, but death is a natural thing. Yeah, it's the same as being born.
It's true.
You can't avoid it either end of your life. Let's celebrate. That's the way I see it.
There is a general fear factor, as you say, about just death in general, especially in this country, and it's kind of like, you just don't talk about it, or people don't want to think about it.
Well, we have euphemism. People say, oh, they've sadly passed. I did a stand-up routine, first time I've ever done it in front of an audience, and I talked about sadly passing. Why can't people say they've died? What's sadly passing? To me, sadly passing is a defender on a football team kicking the ball to the striker and he puts the ball in the back of the net. That's sadly passing.
It's interesting the way you frame it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost a fact of denial because it doesn't sound as final as dead or death or died.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I don't know why other cultures and areas in the world treat it completely differently. I was in Ghana and I went into a coffin maker's place, and there were coffins. There were massive, great big. There were like oil tankers made of wood and all sorts of things, and they celebrated the person that had gone.
Yeah. It's a different way of kind of embracing death, I suppose.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's, as they always say, there's only two certainties in life: death and taxes. But the core of you has a positive mental attitude.
Yep.
Sometimes people say, I read this book, or I spoke to this person, or did you have any refer-tos, or did you just kind of work within yourself?
I think I did it all myself, apart from the sessions with the counsellor. Maybe that triggered something for me to talk about it. I represent a charity not far from Hillingdon called Momentum, which is Momentum Children's Charity. And I go and I talk to groups like Rotary and TOC-H and big business groups, and I talk to them about Keira, and I talk to them about various other things. And that's, to me, and people say, I don't know how you do it, but, I enjoy it. I talk about it.
So really what you're saying, Jeff, is that it's therapeutic as well, because you're keeping her memory alive, but you may be helping someone else in that process, because you're someone who may be grieving and going through an awful circumstance. It does help when you share that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With the Momentum group, I'm asked occasionally to go and chat to a dad who's been given the news that there's a terminal diagnosis on their daughter or son as such. And I think dads deal with things slightly different than mums. On those occasions, we'll meet in a pub and I give them my story, but I say it's not the right way. The only right way is the way that you can deal with things. This is what I've done. This is how I feel. But there's no book. There's no magic bullet. And it's up to the person I'm talking to decide what they want to do. But it's always nice to know that you're not in the same boat. There is somebody else. You think, oh, why did it happen to us? But there are, around you, there are other families going through exactly the same thing. And it's good to know that there is the support for them.
I think the key thing you're saying is not to feel isolated, because you have initially moments of isolation where you are just with your thoughts and yourself. But if you somehow can find a network or an element of support, whether it be, as you say, within a community group, within a charity or friends or whoever it may be, then that will aid your kind of coping mechanism of dealing with a situation like that.
Yeah, there are various like Cruise Bereavement and various organizations that you can talk to. I thought about talking to them, but I found it easier to talk to people that I know on a one-to-one basis in the pub with some friends and what have you. You probably get bored with it after 3 hours, but
I doubt very much. I think what you're doing is incredible, and like you say, you can only talk to people who are going through it, and they can relate to what you are saying. And until someone's gone through that, how can anyone understand?
Exactly. And one of my biggest bugbears is people say, "Oh, I know how you feel," and you don't. Have you lost a child? No. Well, you don't exactly know how I feel. You can speculate, you can have an idea, but until that experience, I've never said to a skydiver, I know how you feel when you're jumping out of a plane, because I've never done it. It's that true. Sort of thing, unless you've experienced something, you can't say, I know how you feel. No. I don't believe you can anyway.
I totally agree with you, because it's so easy for someone to say, oh, I understand. A bit like saying, how are you? It's kind of a sort of not a throwaway comment, but it's sort of a general kind of term that you use.
Yeah, they don't really want to know how you are.
Yeah.
How are you? Oh, well, it's awful. And they'll, bloody, I wish I hadn't asked now. They just want to say, yeah, I'm all right. And that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, you kind of careful with your words, understand the situation and plug into that and where that person is. And that is what you're tuning into, actually, this person is in this situation, and maybe they want to share that with me, maybe they don't, but just say, you can imagine what it might be like, but you can never understand. But I think, as you say, for yourself, that positive mental attitude, which is probably the core of your general being, has kind of helped you through this very traumatic time in your life. And you have to kind of draw upon different tools, don't you? And also, it's a work in progress. This is always a work in progress.
Yeah, and those tools are, you mentioned humor, but it's also understanding other people's feelings, getting a sense of how they feel about things. Because as I said, we're not all the same. We all think differently and what have you. And I know when to draw back on things. You can judge that from people that you're with.
Yeah. And the energy from other people as well, the positive energy and the kind of vibe that you get from them as well. I think your instinct plays a part in this. You said you live for the moment now and you do things. When did you start sort of adopting that attitude?
When I retired, really, which was about 5 years ago, I suppose.
Okay.
We suddenly realized I took redundancy. We had some money and we just went off and did things and we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we are lucky. We're not strapped. We're not millionaires yet, although I did buy lottery tickets for tonight. Just in case. But we just go off and do things. So I went flying in a Spitfire.
Incredible.
Pre-COVID, it was expensive, but I could afford it. Both Anne and myself went a plane each, and we've done it. And we're not sitting there towards the end of our life saying, "Oh, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that."
Yeah. Are there any other incredible experiences that you'd like to share that you've actually done?
I like flying. I'm ex-RAF. Okay. I've flown in the backseat of a Harrier twice, a jump jet. And even, the guy who strapped me in on the first flight said, why are you not his exact words, "Why are you doing this, Jeff?" And I said, "Well, because I've got the chance." Yeah. And he said, "Well, you wouldn't get me strapped in here." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "Because I fixed them." But off I went, and it's just like getting on a plane at Heathrow. If it crashes, it crashes. You've got no control over that. But I'm still here. I've had that experience. I flew aerobatics with the Blades aerobatics team, all ex-Red Arrows pilots. But my pilot was Kirsty Murphy, the first female Red Arrows pilot.
Oh, my goodness.
And we went off and we did all sorts of aerobatics and things.
Oh, goodness me.
But I've done it. And, there is a risk element, but there's a risk element in crossing the road.
Yes.
There's a risk element in me coming out of here and tripping over something and going down the stairs.
True.
I'll weigh the risks up, but ultimately just want to do things that I can do before I'm too old, decrepit, and can't remember that I've done them.
Oh, bless. So, as you say, just live your life now.
Absolutely.
Do it now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really key message that you're kind of sharing. And I can see, because you're always, in the best possible way, you're off on another adventure, which is great. It's always good to have something to look forward to. I think that's really important.
I think things in the diary are great. We're off to Australia in a few days' time for just a month. And that's been in the diary almost a year. And then we've got other stuff for next year. So, having all these things to look forward to, to aim at. There's nothing there and you've got nothing to aim at. I think it's
very true.
Even if it's just planning a trip down to Brighton or somewhere. Yeah.
It's very important. One of my mantras is treat yourself every day.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Always.
Why not?
Even if it's a chocolate bar, but treat yourself every day, and it does make a difference. It really does. And another thing that you share with me is your bright color. I love wearing bright colors, and you have got a lovely orange t-shirt on, and that lifts your mood as well.
It does, but I like black.
Do you?
Yeah. Normally, I'm black. I only write with black ink. That's one of my mantras.
Well, that colour brings out a glow on your face, and it suits you, Jeff.
Oh, brilliant! Okay, did show off the tan.
And you'll be even more orange when you come back from Australia.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's been lovely talking to you today. I really appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you. It's not a problem at all. Always happy to talk.
Thank you for watching and listening. I have certainly taken great inspiration from today's podcast story and hope you have too. If you have a story you would like to share, get in touch via my YouTube channel, The Spots of Time Podcast, and please do click subscribe or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Angela Kanwar.